Do you have questions about your health? Do you need to find out what's keeping you from feeling your absolute best? If so, your intuition has guided you to the right place. I am Dr. Charlize, and welcome to the Art of Healing podcast community. In this podcast, we explore all topics in health and wellness, from Reiki to functional medicine, energy medicine, chakras, and meditation. Join me every week for fresh new episodes that highlight healers, various healing modalities, and use this as your opportunity to find what healing works best for you. If you want to learn more about me, simply Google at Dr. Charlize. Enjoy. 9 ways to ground your energy. A few years ago is a topic that I'm not sure why it came to me, but I created a handout, which has been one of the favorites that folks have received from me. So it's a topic that has come full circle because it turns out when we're grounding our energy, which is working with the energy of our root chakra, it actually helps our adrenal glands. And so when I decided we would discuss adrenal glands and all things adrenal glands, I thought this was a good transition to move it into like other things we can do. Of course, we want to do the healthy stuff with how we sleep, what we eat, but then little exercises we can even do maybe even throughout our day if we are noticing that we are feeling a little too much in our head or a little too just out there with our energy. So in your chat box, you'll see 9 ways to ground your energy, and we're going to go through these as much as we can. I don't know if we'll make it through all of them, but in the handout, it does take you through these 9 simple exercises. So when we want to think about grounding our energy, anytime that you'll just know it, but if you're going through big transitions, so anytime your life changes, and this could be a positive change or a negative change. So it could be the birth of a child, the death of a loved one. It could be starting a new job. It could be moving. These could be life changes that you caused or you desired, or they may be life changes that you did not design, you did not want. But in either way, it's something that's changing your life. There's going to be a period of time where you just won't feel, you just will have trouble staying in the moment. You'll find that your mind's racing ahead to the future or running backward to the past. And it doesn't feel good because your body will stay in that fight or flight or stress mode, and you'll be feeling it pretty extensively. Anytime you're feeling anxious, anxiety can be an emotion, it could be just a moment in time, but anxiety can turn into a whole diagnosis that could send you to the doctor's office, especially if it's causing physical symptoms like racing heartbeat, chest pain, headaches, anything like that. On here, I have for healing arts practitioners, but if anything you might do where you interact with other living beings. So if your work involves living beings that are human, if you work in veterinary medicine, anything where you're dealing with a living being that will have feelings and emotions, those might be good or bad. And it's a good idea to be in touch with yourself and being able to ground your own energy, especially if your work requires you to be there for others, especially if the others you have to be there for really can't do it for themselves. So, of course, in my work, I work with patients that oftentimes have to come in with their energy everywhere, scattered with grief, pain, anger. And so I found for me that really being able to ground myself, I can show up for my patients and not be there for them with compassion, not necessarily be drawn into what they're going through because they don't need that. They need the light to help pull them out of where they are. So, simple exercises you can do, you can mix and match, figure out what works for you, play around with these. And it's also in the little book, The 9 Ways to Ground Your Energy, that hopefully you all can get in the download. So, the barefoot meditation, this is an easy one where if you can be outdoors, if weather permits, or if you're in a nice place like a beach, but where I was recently, it's been too cold and wet and icy for all that. But even if you're indoors, you can just just mimic this. But if you've got a few minutes, you're feeling out of it, simply standing barefoot with your feet touching the ground. And when you practice this, all you do is find a space where you can be undisturbed if you can, if you've got office or private space you work, if you need to do this at work, for instance. You remove your shoes, you just tune into that feeling, tune into the feeling at the bottom of your feet, and you just be. You just sit with that for a few minutes. So the barefoot meditation's always a nice way to calm things down. It's amazing. I practice this myself during my day in clinic, how this can really calm down any sort of anxiety feelings I might be having. The rooting meditation, very similar to the barefoot, but with this one, this can be something that we can actually practice this right now. You can memorize it. Doesn't anything special or fancy. In the book, the way that I instruct you to do it is to set a timer for 3 minutes, but we'll actually practice it for a little bit. So when we're rooting, doing the rooting meditation, we're going to imagine trying to sync up with the energy of the earth. So, in order to do that, we want to be seated. However, you can do this standing if for some reason you must be standing, or maybe you need to stand up to get your blood flowing. You do want to try to get both feet planted on the ground, which I guess I need to do now. I just realized I'm not very rooted because I'm sitting cross-legged in my chair, as ungrounded as I can get. You want to put your feet firmly on the ground and pulling your spine straight comfortably so that when you inhale, the air comes in very easily and you can exhale with very little strain. With eyes open or closed, as you inhale, imagine that your spine's gently pulling itself upright so your chest expands and you can get the air in easily. And then as you exhale, you try to imagine feeling roots at the bottom of your feet that are going to extend through your shoes, through the ground, and into the earth. And so then, as we inhale on the next time, we might feel a calming energy coming up from those roots and into our body. And then, as we exhale, we'll actually feel those roots grow deeper into the earth. So we'll actually practice this for a few minutes. So if you want to have eyes open or closed, just inhale, the spine straightens naturally, head's upright, chest and belly expand, and exhale. You can do this with mouth open, but you'll notice this energy from the bottom of your feet gradually going into the earth. So as you inhale, you might feel that it's coming easier to inhale and your chest and belly expand easily. And as you exhale, the roots at the bottom of your feet go deeper into the earth, and you might even feel just everything slow down. So, the rooting meditation exercise, you can practice that anytime. Doesn't require anything formal or anything strict. And like I said, it's something you can even memorize so that when you're in your day and you're like over the world and you want a moment for yourself, it's a good way to do it. Mindful walking, one of my favorites. So, whenever we use mindfulness and walking, you can get two things done. So, you can get some steps in and get some movement in, especially in modern world where so many of us have to be stuck to screens or stuck in an office. And when it's mindful walking, all we're doing is rather than we might walk for exercise and listen to an audiobook, that's what I frequently do, or walking and we're chatting with friends on the phone, like using it to socialize and get our exercise. All of those are wonderful. But mindful walking, what you're going to do is actually take a walk outdoors if you can, but it might even be indoors. And as you're walking, rather than trying to get your mind on something else, you're going to take your mind just to walking so that as you place your foot down, you'll take your mind to noticing heel, midfoot, toe, foot rises, and you take your attention to the next foot. So it's actually a slow walk where you heel, midfoot, toe, and then that foot lifts up. And then you might notice your legs as you're walking, and is the thighs flex and relax, and the calves flex and relax. And after you do that for a few minutes, then you actually practice mindfulness of your surroundings. So as you're walking and you're sensing, what is your chest doing as you're walking? And what is your head doing as you're walking? Thank you, Claudia. I'm glad that was grounding. Thank you. Then, when you start to notice your surroundings, so hopefully, if you can do a mindful walk outside, you can notice the sounds of the traffic, the sounds of the birds, the sunlight on your skin. But the idea with mindful walking is that the walk is the main event. So you intentionally put everything else aside on your mindful walk. You even take as little things as you can with you. And then as you're walking, you're just tuning into your body, to the surroundings, just for a few minutes. I did create a podcast that's a mindful walk. And if I have time, once we are in our little break here, I'll try to include it because it just basically gives you guidance. So as you're practicing this, you just have a little guidance so you don't get distracted. But ideally, with a mindful walk, you tune into the eyes, the ears, the senses, the body, and you just walk for about 10 minutes. Then at the conclusion, you stop and just observe. How do you feel? What happened within your body? And that's all you do. One of my favorite exercises. And you can do it indoors too if you can't get outdoors for some reason. And then in the book, I included a few kind of hands on your body ways to ground your energy. These are somewhat based in the practice of Reiki. They are very similar to what Reiki healers learn when they learn Reiki 1, but these are things that you can easily do on your own without having trained in Reiki because it'll have the same effect, which is bringing your mind into your body, bringing your mind into your lower body, and trying to just release those thoughts. And when we do that, as we discussed earlier, it actually helps our adrenal glands get a signal that we're not so stressed and they don't have to produce so many stress hormones. I think we're doing pretty good on time. So we can practice the hands on the belly. In the book, I indicated to do hands on your lower belly. So this is like the pelvic area, but you get the same feeling by putting your hands anywhere that's accessible or reachable on your belly. We're going to actually practice this for a few minutes. So if you're seated, if you want to place your hands, they can be one on top of the other or just side by side. Or if it's accessible and comfortable and you're able to reach, if you want to have, and it's like cupped hands. If you want to put your hands, sometimes those aren't so comfortable, especially if we have like tightness in our shoulders. So you can do your cupped hands just on your thighs. So we'll actually practice for a few minutes if that's okay with you guys. So seated wherever you are, if you are able to close your eyes, but if not, if you just want to keep your eyes rested on something that's not too distracting or stimulating, or just on the screen. And if you want to shrug your shoulders up and then bring them back and maybe do a few shoulder rolls, and then let your shoulders rest where it feels like they're hanging nice and loose, not shrugged and not forced back. And then take a big inhale. So expanding the belly and then expanding the chest. And exhale, mouth open or closed. And you can even sigh if that feels better. So for the next few breaths, if your hands are on your belly as you inhale, just take your attention to your hands lifting as your belly lifts and as your chest expands. And exhale. And inhale, taking your focus to your hands. And exhale. So for the next minute, as you practice your inhale and exhale, you might sense that your hands are starting to get warm. And sometimes it's pleasant. So if you do sense that or just any sensation change, just keep your attention right there. So inhale and exhale. So it might feel nice to take your hands and rub them together. And if you had your eyes closed, if you want to go ahead and gently open your eyes as we close our brief grounding practice. So the final few practices are a little bit more active, and these are in that little ebook, Mountain Pose, which is borrowed from yoga. But practicing mountain pose is a great way if you are in the midst of things. If you're standing in line at the grocery store, it's a long line, or standing in line at the DMV. It is a perfect time to practice mountain pose. And all you do is if you find yourself in this situation and you're feeling activated or triggered, you want to notice where your feet are and put them hips width apart. So sometimes for women, we need to stand our feet a little bit wider apart. And sometimes for guys, we need to bring them in a little bit. And then you want to imagine pulling yourself straight as if there's a string pulling you from the top of your head so that you get your alignment upright. And then tune into what your core is doing while you're standing. And it's a good time to practice maybe tightening up the core as you take a breath in and then relaxing it. So in those situations, practicing mountain pose for a few minutes intentionally, not actually trying to distract yourself, but just bring yourself into your body. One of my favorite practices. And then I included doing some gentle acupressure at the base of your skull where you just gently massage those areas. Although it's not quite like the lower body, it's where we hold a lot of tension. And when you practice acupressure, you just take a couple fingers, you apply it to your body will actually intuit where you need to do it, but there's actually some acupressure points right there. And if you gently probe around on yourself, you'll sense a place that seems more sensitive. And for you, that's probably your acupressure point. And you just massage it with circular movements for a couple seconds, even a couple of minutes. And that can help ground your energy, especially if you hold a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders. And then these last few practices are probably more for when you're at home, when you know that you can really unwind, relax, and let go. And it's practicing manipulating your feet. So, of course, of all of our grounding energy, the feet are powerful. So, the practice of acupressure a lot of times relies on the feet because in acupressure, all those powerful meridian points map to an area on the foot. So, when you're practicing on yourself, simple foot massage, when you're going to bed at night, or even just taking one hand and placing it on the bottom of your foot and doing those same breathing exercises where you just draw your energy into your foot for a few minutes. Sometimes you have to do one foot at a time, or if you're flexible enough where you can sit cross-legged and do both feet. That's a very good way to slow down your energy. Thank you so much for joining me for the latest Art of Healing podcast. In your show notes, you'll see a link that'll take you to the ebook where you can download 9 ways to ground your energy, keep a copy on your phone, practice anytime that you need. Of course, reach out to me at charlize@healingartshealthandwellness.com if you have any trouble accessing that download. Have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for joining during this episode of the Art of Healing podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review. Also, you can check your show notes to find out how to get a copy of this and future episodes emailed directly to your inbox, available to listen to anytime. Finally, if you have questions or wish to connect to me, check your show notes to find out how we can get connected and find out how I can be of service to you.